Hi, welcome to the show. Beginning tonight, we're shifting focus here. Time to get serious. This is a very clear line that is drawn in the sand. There are two distinctive parties with strong and unique public personas dividing what's right and what's wrong. Both of these people have laundry lists that have shortcomings. They take opposite approaches to pretty much every issue. So there's no more undecideds, no more in the middle. Pick a side, goddammit, because this is the most important debate of our lives. Yes, Brad versus Angelina starts now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
In case anybody's wondering, Team Brad. Yes, once there was a way to get back homeward, welcome to Trump versus Hillary. Golden Slumbers. We'll talk about why I've chosen this title and this song. Stephen, not Helmkamp, but the other one out there, his name all of a sudden, Stephen Lemieux, boy in his 20s, asked me why the song, and I was like, you'll have to watch the show. Anyway, I am Christian Bladt, at ChristianDMZ on Twitter and Instagram. Welcome to Trump versus Hillary, and make sure you follow the show, at TrumpHillary16. Like us on YouTube, comment there, rate us on iTunes. To my left is Chelsea Galicia, at Chelsea Galicia. To her left, Scott Moore, who is at SMan80. He's the only one of you guys that isn't just their name, but I'm also not just my name because it was taken. Way down there on the other end of the desk, for those watching on YouTube, Drexel Heard, at Drexel Heard, and back where he belongs on the couch of dissent, Stephen Helmkamp. Stephen,
hello.
Say hello. Now, so we're using this song, Golden Slumbers, because the bombing suspect in New York was found sleeping outside of a bar, and when Hillary commented on it on her plane, she looked like she was still asleep. So there's two reasons why we have that song. So we're going to dive right into the big topic. Brad and Angelina is going to have to wait till after the show. But so there were the bombings in New York and New Jersey, and the suspect was found because he was sleeping outside of a bar. And the best thing about this, and I'm from New York originally, and what I love about this is how did we, as in law enforcement, as in the good guys, find some of those undetonated bombs? Oh, I know, because New Yorkers were trying to steal the backpacks that they were in. They saw them and they're like, hey, there's something suspicious in here. And I love that. I love that a lady saw a pressure cooker on the street and was like, hey, that doesn't belong there. If you see something, say something. So I love that worked. So, God bless these people. I love the people that are looking to steal the backpacks because
worked out this time.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. So that's interesting. And Ahmad Khan Rahimi was the suspect. The gentleman found sleeping outside of a tavern, which I think has helped its Yelp reviews, although I'm not sure. Oh my God. So after the bombings, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio was still very hesitant to call the attacks terrorism, and New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, he questioned the link to what he called, quote unquote, international terrorism. International terrorism. I wonder what nations could be part of international terrorism. Probably all those Portuguese terrorists, or those militant Frenchmen out there. Boy, if only we had a classification for, I don't know, radicalized Americans with certain backgrounds. If only we had a term that we could use to call people like Ahmed Khan Rahimi. But I'm just going to have to assume that he was an extreme Methodist. And he was obviously radicalized. Maybe he's an extreme Mormon. He was radicalized. He went to a camp in Provo, Utah.
Is this for real?
No, of course it's not for real. Well, I mean, the world is trying to say that we can't jump to conclusions.
I know.
But, Stephen, what would you say about Ahmad Khan Rahimi? And I'll let you speak in a second, Chelsea.
Oh, no,
well,
I don't
first
really
of all,
it's
you have to have something
No,
to say.
I just, like that you were going down the road where you were about to say the term, and then this whole show was going to be about the term.
Oh, no, I mean, the term's going to come up. But, who should say it first?
Radical Islamic terror.
Who should be on the couch of dissent and say the term?
Wait, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
I got something for you.
Give me that Skittles. Is that a poisonous one?
Skittles.
I don't want poisonous Skittles, Chels.
Skittles will happen a little bit later.
Hand me a handful,
And
please.
Let's see which ones.
Drexel, don't
Which
do
ones are gonna
it.
kill
I know we
you?
don't get along on the show, Drex, but don't do it.
All right.
Skittles for all.
So, Stephen, you hear about this story.
Yeah.
There's there's a lot of things that you could assume here, but what is your takeaway from the way that the story's been covered, the facts that we have?
Yeah, the most important thing to me is just that it's another senseless act of violence that more
I can hear
more
everyone
people
eating
are
Skittles,
injured.
by the way. So finish the ones you have, but don't eat any more. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
And that there's just this hatred in the world between people, and that more and more people are not feeling
Are you
safe
talking about you
in
and
their own
Drexel?
cities.
I don't think
but
that's
we
actually
love them.
hatred.
Listen,
It's love and hate. It's love and
Steven
hate.
accepted my friend request on Facebook, so we are in good terms
because
right
he
now.
texted me.
I texted
How
him. I
long
said,
did he make you
I
wait?
texted him. I said, "You better accept my friend request."
How long did he make you wait?
A couple of hours because I said I texted him and I said, "You better accept my friend request."
It was instantaneous.
It
for me.
was.
But anyway,
But
seriously,
it's
though,
just,
Steven.
I'm tired of hearing about these stories. I'm tired of seeing people feel scared in their city. I'm tired of these senseless
Okay, wait,
acts
can we talk
of
about the
violence.
scared in their city? I get that it's not
Well, it's not only
cool.
that, but they beefed up security at the Emmys too. We have people in the studio that were there at the Emmys, so it's like any big gathering, any big national award show, anything that's going to get national attention is now on terror alert. Is now people feel threatened. So it's like
Wait, so Chelsea, you wanted to say something, so we'll let you go first, and then Drexel. So Chelsea.
So this kind of thing is terrible. And if we spend 44 out of the 45 minutes on the show talking about it, I'm going to be really annoyed because that's what's the part of the problem in politics. We're spending too much time on an important issue, but it's blown out of proportion how much time, energy, and focus. Let's not forget there are things that are much more dangerous to Americans. Actually, let's talk about these Skittles and how dangerous sugar is, and that 18,000 some odd Americans
Sugar is
die
more
a year from
dangerous
sugary sugar.
than
We're
terrorists.
sort of jumping around.
Actually,
planting
that's not true.
bombs.
If you look at
Chelsea,
numbers,
don't even. We'll go to
want-
sugar
We'll go to
later,
su-
but right now we're on this topic, so
But
let's
I-
just stay there for a second instead of talking about sugar. Are you kidding me?
well,
We're talking about people planting bombs.
Junior
do-
is the one who posted the Skittle thing. So
We're not
I
there
do-
yet, though. The topic was
But-
about how no one's jumping.
I do think,
we
Chelsea,
can't jump to a
that,
His
conclusion.
whole thing
you
was
know-
about the Syrian refugees and that 3 of them out of a handful might come kill you.
Chelsea,
Which
we're not
could
there yet.
segue into the terrorism.
So
aspect
let's
of it.
bring up the graphic, if you don't mind. So what they're talking about, what we're all talking about now, is Trump Jr., Donnie Jr., Lil Don. He tweeted out this graphic, which you can see if you're watching on YouTube. Lil Don is like mini-me. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. And it says, if I had a bowl of Skittles and I told you just 3 would kill you, would you take a handful? That's our Syrian refugee problem. Yeah, that's an interesting point to make with
Except
a bowl
you
of
would
Skittles.
need like 3.5 billion Skittles to
Hey,
make the
sign
analogy.
me. By the way, sign me up. I'll take 3.5 billion Skittles.
I just wanted to, so
Yo, go ahead.
I just wanted to say a couple of things because, first of all, I moved here from New York City and we saw how New York, kind of responded to it. First of all, law enforcement did their job. We saw law enforcement do their job in New York. We saw law enforcement very quickly help the people of Louisiana. And the governor did their job, so the states did their job to keep their people as safe as they could and bounce back. Like, we're not hearing too many stories about what happened in Louisiana because the state government has got it back on track and they're doing what they need to do. At the same time, New York City did what they needed to do. Within 24 hours, they found this guy, they got the forensic evidence they needed, and they did their job. But something Stephen said really bothered me because, people are walking around afraid of outside terrorism when 2 days, black people are walking around every day scared of what's happening in their cities. So and we're seeing Terrence Crutcher being shot on video.
But that's
so
not to take away from.
I'm not saying
what's
that.
going on, like,
no.
It does, though.
Black Lives Matter. That's not to take away
hold on,
from that.
Hold on,
All right,
let
we'll
me
let
finish.
Drexel finish.
What I'm saying is that to say that people are walking around scared because of an outside threat is more important than the people walking around on the inside threat. Because if you look at the past, and we talk about a lot on this show, if you look at the past where I don't know if this kid was an American citizen.
He was.
He was an American citizen. So what's happening is that you've got a lot of American citizens, homegrown American citizens, not just what happened, not just the guy from New York, not just the guy from Orlando, but you talked about the Emmys, but what happened in Sandy Hook? What happened in Columbine? What happened? So are we going to be afraid to go anywhere? Right. Here in AfterBuzz, we have 4 studios that are full blown, probably about 20 to 30 people in this building. We all could be afraid at any point. So I think at some point, it's always blown out of proportion. But if you actually put it in context of how the international threats are not as bad as the domestic threats, that's what we should be really focused on right now.
Yeah, but domestically, we're not seeing a lot of bombs going off. A lot of these domestic bombs and explosions and mass terror attacks are international threats.
Right.
And this guy was an American citizen originally from Afghanistan. His father reported him to the FBI as a terrorist 2 years ago, and he wasn't put on the radar list.
Well, he took it back. That's the problem.
Sure.
He took it
Here's
back.
another thing I want to say about the media's
back.
reaction to this whole deal.
No.
So CNN, when they showed Hillary's comment on this, they showed her second statement of her initial statement of it, saying that we support our first responders, we support our law enforcement. Her first statement was, I was briefed on the bombings that happened in New York and New Jersey. CNN conveniently left that out. Then a reporter from NBC on the plane said, Hillary, how do you react? What's your reaction to Trump's claims and his reaction to jumping to conclusions and calling this a bombing?
Yes,
she punted the question away, didn't say a word about Trump, and just, again, talked about the first responders because she just called it a bombing. So this whole thing about Trump saying that, he called it a bombing, he jumped to conclusions. It was a bombing.
Let's not get baited by this. This is a silly.
So here's the
They're not even
talking
comparable.
about no
They're not
reference
comparable.
about anything.
So the topic was about the media's
the
reaction.
key about all of this,
That was my
everyone,
statement.
is, you know, you can talk about how he's an American citizen, but yes, he was born in Afghanistan, and, you know, neighbors and friends are saying, oh yeah, he did take that trip to Afghanistan and he came back and he was really different and he was really religious now. So Chelsea, in response to your question, is this going to be all we talk about tonight? It'll kind of depend if that side of the table feels like, is it possible? I'm not even saying, is this definitely an instance? Can you unequivocally rule out the fact that this is, can you say confidently that this is not someone who is a radicalized Islamic terrorist? Or do you think it's a chance, or you're just like, no, there's no way? Because, and it's not so much about you guys in general, it's just you're the guys who are here.
Yeah.
Because so often in the media, there, and, you know, Bill de Blasio and all these people are like, no, we can't make that connection. It's impossible. Even when the evidence indicates that it is at least possible. I don't need anybody to say yes.
It's so funny.
Just say it might be. Go ahead, Chelsea.
It's so funny. This happened,
Scott?
48 hours ago, and we already, are connecting. A police officer kills somebody, and it takes us, 48 months for us to get,
I definitely agree that is a huge problem. I don't think that means that this isn't a problem.
Is it possible?
Exactly.
Sure. And if when you said, but Americans are afraid now. Yes, but just because Americans are afraid doesn't mean that we should make it worse by giving it undue attention. We should direct the fear to things that are actually dangerous and come up with policies that address those.
All right, Scott, you've been very quiet. Scott has let everyone else speak except him, so go ahead.
It's because, again, like we're saying, we're jumping to conclusions. Let's figure out what inspired him.
Sure.
Did anyone else help him make these? The good thing
that's
is
important, because if someone helped him and they're still out there, sure.
And what was his motivation? And the fact is he's still alive, so we actually have that opportunity to
Amazing how that happens, right?
Though, because you don't normally get that. So let's see
and Trump said he would receive quality medical care and legal representation, by the way.
He would no.
Okay.
No, he did actually say that, because I have it in my notes. Which I think he was very upset about the fact that he's going to get quality medical care. Well, yeah, I don't think he was happy about it, because in Trump's America, the only medical care he would get would probably be a second gunshot wound on top of the first one, and the only medicine he'd hope for is probably I don't know, some electric waterboarding. Anyway, Scott.
So that's what I'm saying. We just need to learn what motivated him and why he decided to do that, because there is too many times where people want to draw conclusions and we don't know what was his inspiration behind it. But regardless, it's just, like you're saying, before you jump to conclusions, you do want to know, and you want to know if anyone else was helping him and why he was involved with this.
So worst case scenario, let's say, okay, yes, it's connected. So now we're going to toss out every Muslim. Is that the solution to the problem?
Well, it's certainly not the solution. Although, there is someone suggesting that. Not in this room. Not in this room, but someone whose name is in the show. We won't say who that is.
So why are you looking at me like it's ridiculous to say that? Because that's what somebody's proposing.
And that's ridiculous.
So
he wants to temporarily, not that I'm saying I agree with it, he wants to temporarily ban Muslims coming in from threatening regions.
And that would not have
stopped
this.
Exactly. It's not going to solve the problem.
Because this was inside
not going to solve the
problem. The father, whether he recanted it or not, put reported him to the FBI saying my son is a terrorist.
I don't think
also-
he said terrorist. We reported some
but he also
silly things because
he also
enough was
this guy
going
also
on.
sued law enforcement for harassing him based on
Of
being
his
a Muslim.
fried chicken
so
place.
that
was going on for him.
So
to
that's
go
interesting,
and say that.
and
I mean,
that tells me like, oh, okay, so they were probably looking into the right guy. So you can't always rule that out. You know, don't be afraid of getting the lawsuit if you
So
think
yeah,
that somebody
this
is up
guy
to
should
something.
be brought to justice,
Sure.
and that whole thing. But I don't think that we should turn this into
some
a
crisis.
into a policy of kicking people out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not
And
gonna,
not
it's not gonna
accepting
work.
any
Highest
refugees.
priority.
29 people got hurt, which, you know, that's terrible,
You're
but
about to
no
tell
one
me-
died.
Right.
So the fact of the matter is, this is another terrorist who wasn't great at his job, thankfully.
Yes. And
you're
He
gonna
didn't-
tell me-
He didn't actually kill anyone, but
You're
we
about
should
to
learn
tell
something
me
from it.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
you're about to tell me that the highest priority of the government should be keeping Americans safe.
That's what voters think in a Wall Street and NBC poll. That's what voters think. It was the highest issue rated.
Okay.
National
So
security.
then let's talk about
not
then
black
let's-
on black crime.
So then
not
let's-
crime
Well, there's
on
no such thing
crime.
as black on black crime.
Not crime on us.
So
Again,
then let's
Not
talk
all that.
about
Not all the police shootings. I'm
Okay.
not saying that. I'm not saying me. These are polls.
But that is
that's
keeping
the
America
number
safe
one.
if
That's
you're working on it.
national
If,
security is the number one issue. So that's what I'm saying. When I say
By the way,
Americans
if we could
don't
get
feel safe,
the chat
Chat room
room
up,
from
yeah.
YouTube
But the
up,
problem-
just because
the-
that's
the
what they're
other
interested in
side of
seeing.
it-
Thank you very much.
I was just going to say the
Yeah,
other
go ahead,
side, like
Drexel.
when people think national security and when Americans think about people feeling safe, first of all, national security doesn't mean international security. Like, it doesn't mean like secure. Like, national security is also domestic security. You want to be safe in your cities from your police officers.
exactly.
You want to be safe in your city from your next door neighbor. You want to be safe in your city from the person at the grocery store, or the person that can walk into the movie theater, or the person that can walk into your school.
That's very
you know.
funny. Vic Rattlehead says deplorable lives matter. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. You know,
yeah.
but you know, so I think when people think national security, they're seeing a lot of things on TV right now that are happening within the United States. You're not seeing things happen across the world. If we were talking about things that are happening across the world, we would be talking about the fact that the United States airstrikes, you know, hit Aleppo last week. We'd be talking about the people that were actually killed overseas due to a what did the administration call it? They called it a they regretted it that it happened. So we would be talking about the international problems if we were so worried about.
But Gary
national
Johnson would not be talking about it.
because he wouldn't know where it was.
Another story to move on to. Similarly, unfortunately, there was the attack at the mall in Minnesota. So a 22-year-old, his name was Dahir Adon, and he was so he's the guy who went stabbing people at the mall. And the most important thing about this story is Jason Falconer, the off-duty police officer who shot this guy. Now, he didn't just walk up and shoot him. You know, he's like, hey, you know, you should probably stop stabbing people. And when he didn't, well, then you got to take a guy out. So I, for one, am glad that he was there. There are a lot of people who think that, you know, he's an off-duty police officer. Maybe even he shouldn't have a gun right there. But thank God he did, because this could have been a lot worse. And this is another instance where we don't know why he did it, but the fact that I saw a headline that, oh yeah, he was just there to buy an iPhone 7. What? I saw there was a headline on CNN, on their website, and I was like, well, I get it. Like, people love their Apple products and the lines can be really long. I'm pretty sure that that's not what led to him stabbing people. Maybe he's just crazy. That happens all the time, you know?
And ISIS claimed responsibility.
ISIS
They're claiming
did
a
claim
lot of responsibility for a lot of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I always take things that ISIS says with a grain of salt. They're just
grain
trying.
of
They're
salt.
trying. I'm saying, you know,
Yeah.
they're trying to recruit a lot of people so that you keep the pressure up on by saying, yeah, I did this and I did this and I did this, when actually you probably had nothing to do with it.
But there were witnesses that said he made references to Allah during
Yes,
the
there were
attack.
witnesses.
Yes.
There were witnesses that
So
said that the
that
person in
gives a
Orlando
lot
did
more
that.
credibility than ISIS
No.
claiming
Yes.
it, which should be
It doesn't give
a
credibility because someone
consideration.
says they're giving
Just
it to
because
Allah.
There was
It gives
an
no
eyewitness
credibility.
who said he was
but I
making
think-
references to Allah.
And that gives credibility to
Before
what?
he stabbed someone, he asked someone, "Are you a Muslim?" And then there was also an ISIS news agency that praised him for being as a
Right,
What's the
Islamic
credibility about that, though?
soldier.
Because somebody's
It is-
crazy.
I'm just saying that
and
there's a
decide- that
lot.
doesn't give credibility.
There's a lot of evidence leading to
There
the ISIS
is
claim
evidence,
being
so
real.
they shouldn't rule it out just
Right.
because ISIS, you know, all of a sudden has a good PR agent. But, you know, like, obviously look into it more, see what that's all about. But
Right.
don't discount the fact that people said it, because
It's just got to be looked into.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But it's, you know, it happens on the same day, it's the same weekend as these bombings, so it becomes part of the narrative,
Right.
and whether maybe neither one of them were motivated. All right,
I was going to say, because they're crazy and
Yeah.
someone says something
yeah.
doesn't mean it's the same thing that happened with Orlando. It's like because they want to say they're whatever and they're
Right.
crazy, they're going to do.
And it goes back to something. It goes back
what
to
he
something.
just said
not-
connects it all,
but it
so
also goes
that
back
is
to-
worth looking into.
But it also goes back to something that we talked about, or I talked about a few episodes ago, where the more that it's like the bullies in school or the victims in school. The more that you bully somebody, the victims are going to retaliate 10 times worse than they would have if you treated them with the respect that they deserved as an American citizen. So that's the problem with Trump's America, which is saying, listen, we're going to bully you to push you out of this country, instead of saying, I see you, we want to work with you, which is what the Obama administration has been saying the whole time. You know, in your communities, and I know a lot of Republicans say that. You know what's in your communities. You help us find those people. You get them out, and then we'll take care of the rest. And that's not the policy of the Republican Party, and that's certainly not the policy that Trump's out there.
That's actually what Trump said all along. He said law enforcement knows where these criminals are, and they will go and get them so fast.
Yeah, and I feel like Chelsea's head's going to explode. She's tried to.
No,
I've heard Trump say that a lot.
Yeah, you're mixing up subjects. He's said that about who are the criminal aliens
The
that he's
illegals?
going to deport hour one, day one.
Yeah.
Are you sure it was just the illegals?
That's what I probably haven't listened to as many rallies
Well,
as you have.
maybe you should
But
spend more
I
time at
have.
DonaldJTrump.com.
I think it was more than
I
just
have.
illegals. You are correct that he definitely said that about the illegals, but I could be wrong. But I think he also said it about.
But again, at the end of the day, it's all about the policy. It's about the idea that you don't respect your fellow American, and that is
Or
where
how
that is
just
the whole
respect
separate
people
into
in the world. I mean, there are countries that look at the United States as a terrorist state.
I agree,
So
yeah.
starting to think about our own actions and how we may be responsible for some of the reaction that we're getting. Not totally like it's our fault only,
Sure.
but to take some responsibility, I think, is the only
I
way.
completely agree.
Well,
There's
so
way too
the
much
key to
hate
all
in the
this is,
world.
what we always talk about here on the show is that we should be able to talk about all of it, which we've been able to do. You don't have to say automatically like, okay, clearly this was a terrorist act, but at the same time, don't say, oh, there's no way. Everybody's very quick to say there's no way. Just say we're looking into it. I don't even you guys.
I don't think that just because you don't say it doesn't mean you don't know. Like, here's the thing. President Obama didn't say that it wasn't
No,
a
but Bill de
terrorist
Blasio
attack.
did. He said
But-
there's no
but Bill de
evidence to
Blasio-
indicate.
right, and
It's
I
like, sure, but there's no
right, and I think that
indication
from
that it isn't.
I think that the difference is Bill de Blasio on the ground is taking all the information
Yeah.
in, he's making a statement, and then he'll come back and make another statement.
Probably should have
He's
waited to make the statement.
Well, I
but
mean,
yeah.
but if the New York City mayor doesn't come out pretty much right
that's
away,
true.
then that would have caused another problem. So I think that, what we learned from, and I'll even say it, what we learned from Benghazi, which was you don't make a statement until you have every bit of the fact out there. And I think that's one of the things that we saw Hillary Clinton do this weekend, which was, hey, I don't have all the facts yet. I learned from it. Not that she said she learned from Benghazi, but I'm not going to go out there and say something that's not fully vetted yet because I don't have all the facts to do that just yet. And as a presidential candidate, she's not getting briefed like national security briefing.
Right.
I mean, she had her one, and Donald Trump had his one, but at the same time, you learn from the past mistakes, which is you don't make a statement without.
By the way,
without knowing
Drexel,
all the
your
facts.
phone just lit up. There was a text from Hillary. It said "Ixnay on the Benghazi Bay." So,
I was
she
being,
didn't-
but I was being fair.
I know,
I was
but
trying
she just
to be
likes to
fair.
keep it out of the.
I was
So
I
good,
was trying,
Christian
but
Brett.
I was trying to point out the fact that
No,
that you
absolutely.
learn from situations like that.
Ixnay on
Man,
the
if you can learn from your mistakes, the Clintons must be very well educated. But what this comes around to is
good.
this really pushes national security, international threats, all of that to kind of the forefront when maybe we weren't talking about it even a week ago.
I think we've been
we're talking about it a little
talking
bit,
about
but no, it became the story in the last few days. And I think that what
it's
it ultimately
really
comes down to is there's a lot of stuff people are going to throw aside for either one of these candidates. They're going to look at who makes them feel safer. And there are a lot of people who think that Trump makes them safer because he wants to build walls everywhere. And I think that they'll discount everything, including the Skittles, which we can bring up again because I want to talk more about the Skittles. They'll discount all that stuff because they're like, no, he makes me feel safer. And right or wrong, people are going to vote how they feel, and I think that this
That
just
Absolutely.
reinforces.
is
I read an article
true
that
and
two
very
political
scary.
scientists who've been studying terrorism said that voters will vote when they feel scared. that they will vote for the candidate that has the best leadership skills.
Right, but then if you look at Donald Trump, if you look at
Clearly,
The definition of leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Drexel?
I was going to say
Mm-hmm.
if the American people looked at the Donald Trump's international policy and the way that he has made us a little bit more isolationist, that is more dangerous to the country from a national security perspective than what they call Clinton's globalist policy. And I was reading an article the other day just about why Clinton thinks the way she does in terms of being an interventionalist. And one of the things that we forget about Hillary Clinton is that women think a lot differently than men, obviously. And her thought process, and I was like, oh, that makes a little bit of sense, is it is a moral obligation for the United States to intervene in human rights violations. Now, Chelsea, anybody can argue all day that the United States can engage in human rights issues on the other side of that, but from a Hillary Clinton standpoint, it is a moral obligation for the United States to intervene in countries that overwhelmingly show human rights violations. So
we don't believe Hillary to do that. If you watched Clinton Cash,
oh Jesus,
we can't talk about.
We won't get into it.
But
Drexel, I love what
time.
you said was true, and that if voters actually believed that was true, that was in Hillary's heart to go and do that.
Yeah, but
I wish
nobody's talking about it.
When you see her deals, when you see her dealings through the Clinton Foundation and what she did in Haiti and Africa and Iran and all over the world.
That sounds a lot like Clinton Cash.
It is.
Yes, it is. But no.
So it's like we don't believe.
Here's the thing. In no national narrative is that a thing. No national conversation or Clinton Foundation dealings with Haiti, Clinton Foundation dealings with Russia, none of the stuff that came from Clinton Clash is a national conversation, not even from the Trump campaign. So the more that you bring it up, the more you discredit yourself because you're talking about things that nobody else is talking about.
But it is on the Trump campaign.
It is not. Donald Trump campaign.
Chelsea was trying to get in. Let's let Chelsea speak because then I want to move on.
Stop bringing up Clinton Cash.
Kimberly does say stop bringing up
Clinton Cash. It doesn't matter.
Kimberly, if you watch Clinton Cash, we'll stop talking about it. Anyway, Chelsea, go ahead.
Let's move on.
Let's talk about some bad messaging from the Trump campaign. We'll bring up the Skittles now, and we'll show the graphic again.
Skittle.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Steven gets Skittles. So as we were talking about, it's a bowl of Skittles. That was a good throw, by the way.
That was a very good
if
throw.
I had a bowl of Skittles and told you the 3 would kill you, would you take a handful? I would stop throwing them. Just imagine if we have to explain to Phil how we broke one of those monitors. It's like, oh yeah, Chelsea kept throwing Skittles.
We'll just say
at
it was a refugee.
So what I love about this story is the M&M Mars company responded. They could have really sort of tried to cash in on this, and
Is that the same as Wrigley's?
No, that is a different company. Yeah,
Mars.
no. So Mars says, quote, this was a tweet, quote, Skittles are candy, refugees are people. It's an inappropriate analogy. We respectfully refrain from further comment as that could be misinterpreted as marketing. Now, see, that's smart. That's good messaging. That's good social media. Eric Trump posted, or Donnie Jr., they're the same guy. Clone
As Bill Maher would say, Don F face.
Yeah. So, the sending out the tweet in the first place, that's not good. Surprisingly, the Trump campaign has been doing an amazing job staying on message more than not. And this is the sort of thing, it's like, well, what are you talking about Skittles for? Because now look what you did. So I think that they can't help themselves when you see stuff like this. And I don't know, Stephen, we've obviously talked numerous times. You are not a Trump supporter.
That's debatable.
You are dabbling in. You have the Kool-Aid in front of you. You have not drank it, but you are looking into it and thinking about it.
He's like stuck his tongue in it.
The rest of the
flirted with it.
He's just sticking his tongue in the powder pack.
It's like a glass of wine. It's like swirling around his
The
tongue.
rest of the panel said no, thank you, and only you had the Kool-Aid before you. What do you think when you see something like that? And now, keeping in mind that sure, it's kind of stupid, but the fact that they sent it out. What do you think about it?
So what was his comment? Did he just retweet the meme of it?
Yeah, they created it so he could send it out. There was something he said, but it's not as significant.
Syria problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's got the Trump Pence logo on it.
It does have the Trump Pence logo.
I don't know. I mean, my whole deal about the refugees is like, why? I mean, we want
This
to
is
be
a messaging question.
we want to be a well. That message, I don't know. I guess it's not great. I mean, if you want me to comment about the refugees, I will. But
no, not so much about that. It's just sort of like this is how they're talking.
It definitely
about
didn't help the campaign by any means.
Which that's what they should be doing. That's what your surrogates. That's what your kids. That's what everybody that you have working on your campaign should be helping you.
And Skittle as a candy is trending.
I just think that there's so much information and so many memes and so many things. Yeah. And you want to be tweeting and engaging every single day. So when something comes across your timeline or someone sends you a photo, you may not have the time to vet it through your people. Is this a good idea?
That would be true if the Trump-Pence "Make America Great Again" logo was not at the bottom.
Exactly.
But also,
it
was tweeted out by someone who has the same name as your candidate. So literally the same name. Yeah. So it's probably something to think about. But and again, in terms of Skittles, it has clearly helped their sales because. Chelsea, we know that she bought one only because of this that we were going to talk about today.
I was going to say a couple of things. Here's the thing that's the problem with the Trump campaign. As they rise in the polls, they get a little too comfortable. Like they're not afraid. They have this air that they're not, they don't have to try as hard because they know their supporters are going to come out. Hillary Clinton does have a lot of work to do when it comes to millennials. She started her millennial push last week. President Obama was out last week. Michelle Obama was out last week. Bernie Sanders was out on the trail last week. Elizabeth Warren was out on the trail, and they'll probably do that over the next 49 days or whatever. But the Trump campaign, they get out there, they get cocky, and then they immediately tweet something out. You had Donald Trump talking about Hillary Clinton's Secret Service, and I know we'll talk about it, Hillary Clinton's Secret Service agent, which is the second or third time he said it from the primary till now.
Sure.
And so that was dumb. Then you got this tweet. So, somebody said the other day to me today, like, we're going to start a Save Ivanka trend. We're going to save Ivanka, make Save Ivanka trending. Because we got to extract Ivanka Trump from that because she seems to be the only sane one, even though she went on national television last week and lied about Hillary Clinton's one of her policies on children and families.
Yeah, but as I've said before about Ivanka, I am so sure she's not going to vote for her father. There's nothing about her that indicates she's too smart to vote for her father. Yes,
Can
Chelsea.
I say something on this?
Of course.
Thanks. I saw.
Thanks.
Of all the fabulous tweets that I saw in reaction to this one,
Skittle or
the Skittle one, is the question of if this bowl of Skittles were America's gun owners and there were 3 mass shooters in there, would this analogy still hold?
I don't know the answer to that, but that it is a good point. But by the way, of course, it wasn't a bowl full of M&Ms because it was the Trump campaign.
Brain is like, wait, what? Do you understand what that is?
No, say it again. If this bowl
just
was
one more time.
American gun owners and there were 3 mass shooters,
would you still grab a handful of Skittles?
Oh.
Or the analogy could be if you have a bowl full of bad cops, and you had 3 or 4 bad cops in there, and you had to take a handful out. Which one would you get? I mean, you can make. I mean, that just it's just a bad analogy that you can make a whole. But I mean, like we always say, from the beginning, the more deaths come from the hands of American citizens in the past few years than international terrorists. So
and sugar.
Oh, Jesus.
and hypertension and cancer.
Processed sugar.
By the way, I don't know anything about Vic Rattlehead in the chat room, but man, is he talking a lot. This is a first time for him. I think he's batting 1,000. So
well, anybody whose name is Rattlehead.
Thanks to everybody who's chatting, and if you're watching live on YouTube, join into the chat. I'm going to momentarily talk about something that was a stroke of brilliance by the Trump campaign, but let's get back to something that Drexel mentioned, trying to make a point about gun ownership, saying, well, how about, you mentioned this a moment ago, Drexel, how about Hillary's Secret Service detail get rid of their weapons? And it's sort of not like the other thing we talked about a few shows ago where it kind of implied, that gun owners might take out Hillary Clinton. This is saying that it's going to happen, so if you're so sure you can keep her safe without guns, get rid of them. Stephen, when you hear that the campaign that you are not endorsing but might endorse at some point, it makes statements like that, do you think it's smart, or do you think misguided, or something completely different?
Misguided and dumb, because Hillary doesn't want to take your guns away. She's been very clear about that. So, and I don't think that's Rock,
get a
you gotta
Skittle.
go unturned.
You get 3.
She
These
just
are the
wants
good
to
ones.
make it tougher for people to get guns. And if you have a criminal record, she wants to make it tougher for you to go get that gun, which I think is amazing. So I like her gun policy. So for Trump to go around and say that she wants to take your guns away is false and not true and wrong.
Do you think reinforcing the idea that she's trying to take away your guns, whether it's factual or not, is that good campaigning?
I don't.
Because they do kind
I
of
was gonna say,
hammer
I
at
actually
that
do
point.
think it's a good campaigning on his part
'Cause it's
you
working.
get the people, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing that they
Well,
did
he's
with
keeping
Obama.
his core
that was saying that
people.
Obama, and we've had the same discussion about why does Obama have Secret Service then if he, with guns. So it's the same argument, and I do think for that
Remember
base
that
of people,
But if
it's
you
a
watch,
good-
but if you watch
but it's a
Hillary talk
good-
about it, she clearly says, "I'm not
What
trying
I'm
to
saying,
take
as
your
far
guns
as a
away."
political
Yeah.
campaign
Obama's been
tactic,
saying that for
it's
7
good.
years, and they still don't believe him.
Exactly, it's a good campaign tactic for the people that are scared about it.
And the other
whatever,
side of that,
and
you know,
attracting that
how
base.
about you take Donald Trump's Secret Service? Remember that video
Right.
when Donald Trump ducked underneath that podium? Who did he think was going to protect him with what? So if anybody,
Hey,
so
Donald Trump doesn't want to take your guns away.
Yo, Trump looked like a little linebacker for a minute, dude. He got down, got low.
Speaking of linebacker, we got to talk about his Dr. Oz.
And I just want to say something else, because Donald Trump talked about, we were talking about gun policy. But the most important thing that President Obama spoke at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation dinner this weekend, and it was really fiery and it was really good. And like, I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton's hovering at 90% black people right now. I'm pretty sure that number is going to go over the next few weeks. But he said something he said schools are on the, he said talked about his legacy, but he also said schools are on the ballot. This is the same week that Donald Trump rolled out his education policy, which talked about using $20 billion of the existing federal budget, which is only 9% of the federal budget right now, and moving that money into charter schools. That is dangerous policy when it comes to educating the American children and the American school system. So we should be talking about that and not pumping that money back into public school system, which is what the federal government should be doing in the first place. And not abolishing the Department of Education, which is also a part of his education plan. That is dangerous policy, and that is what we should be talking about over guns and whether or not Hillary Clinton has Secret Service agents.
But while we are on the topic of guns,
Yes.
he keeps saying this whole protect your Second Amendment, protect your Second Amendment. Nobody's trying to get rid of the Second Amendment. And if you look at, because the one time that I did go to donaldjtrump.com, it says in there, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed, period. Actually, that's not what the Second Amendment says. It doesn't have in there the part about a well-regulated militia.
Right.
So his understanding or representation of the Second Amendment is just flatly
The
false.
website is ever changing, Chels. So
Every day.
check
wow.
back next week.
I'd also like to point out that Vic Rattlehead, our favorite new person, said
Storage yard resident, still my number one guy.
Yeah,
But anyway,
where is he at? He said we have 2 stringent gun laws over here too. But if you actually go to Japan, where their cops don't even have guns at all, you want to talk about stringent gun laws? You want to go to Australia or some of these other countries?
Or
that
even
don't
in
have,
the UK, they don't have
we
guns.
have
Yeah.
actually pretty okay gun laws when it comes to the American voter keeping their guns in their hands.
All
So
right,
I don't think you have to
now
worry too much
Chelsea
about that.
wanted to talk about Dr. Oz, so I'm going to let Chelsea talk about Dr. Oz. None of us are to respond to it because I don't like fake TV doctors. I don't like fake judges. But go ahead and talk about the Dr. Oz
The only
show.
reason I wanted to bring it up is because Trump went on Dr. Oz to talk about his health. He says he was releasing his records, but we don't really know what's in those yet. But my favorite part of the interview was when Dr. Oz says to Donald Trump, "How are you exercising?" And he says, and I crap you not.
I have a huge treadmill.
No.
No, I know he didn't say
He
that.
said, "I'm not. I move my arms a lot."
For those
and
listening on iTunes,
when I'm
Chelsea is
speaking-
wildly gesticulating.
And when I'm speaking in front of crowds of 15, 20,000 people, those rooms are like a sauna. So that's like exercise.
Yeah, he sweats a lot.
Yeah.
That kind of logic and understanding about
He's also said he
healthy and
didn't
working out.
state. He
This
didn't
is a
state
man
very
that
well.
wants to repeal Obamacare and replace it with something
might
better
need
when
it.
he thinks that moving your arms is working out.
I know,
That
Chelsea,
is
that's
dangerous.
not the only comments he's made on his health. On that episode of Dr. Oz, he sounded like a buffoon in that statement. But he's also said, honestly, okay. He's also said, honestly, I don't have a lot of time to exercise, but I'm moving around so much. I'm on my feet all day, and I'm on my feet all day for work too. I do feel exhausted. Feel like I got to
Yeah,
work
but
out.
look
So-
at you and look at
Yeah, I
Trump.
was going to say, you look like you're in better shape than
But
Trump.
I'm saying that
I
is
know what
his
you're saying.
form of exercise.
Well, why-
So whether he's walking
well,
a
then
lot,
it would have
whether
been
he's
the
up
most
and he's-
honest thing to say is right now I haven't been working out. You see me every day. I'm running
traveling,
around.
running
But he
around
said
all
that
over.
is his workouts.
But
I mean,
to
yeah,
try
but
and
that's
say
stupid.
my arms and the sauna,
Chelsea
and then
just
his
misstated that.
his
I mean, come on.
he
All right, I
I
misstated.
think you're just being a little critical.
We'll move
of his
on
words
from
on that.
You're
move on from that because,
ridiculous.
as
But he's
promised,
addressed it in
I
other
wanted to
interviews.
give credit to something that the Trump campaign did, which is something that, of course, seems ridiculous on the surface, but the press conference that he did to say that he believes President Obama was born in the United States. Now, that press conference had nothing to do with him saying that, and he made the reporters sit through about 30 minutes of him trotting out all these military figures who've endorsed him. So, as political theater, that was brilliant. That was very
His
well
new
done.
hotel.
Because people, and the new hotel. So he had people covering something that they were not prepared to cover and they would not have covered because it's not that interesting. So he's like, I'll give them what they want. I'll speak for 2 or 3 minutes and say that Obama was born in the United States, even though I don't believe it. And, you know, it's
don't
fine.
believe it, or he
no,
doesn't
no,
believe
that
it?
was Trump.
I'm just
But
double
the
checking.
fact that Trump said he believed it is actually, for the first time, what made me think, oh, wait, maybe he wasn't. Because if Trump says he is born in America, I automatically have to assume it is inaccurate information.
Right.
So anyway, I think that, and keep in mind we only have a couple minutes.
Right.
So
I was just going to say, I tweeted out, and I've talked to people about it over the past few days, which I was like, the media at this point have, because right after that press conference, all of the big heads of the organizations got together and were like, we're not sending our camera people to like walk through Trump Hotel. Like, don't send a person, don't send a camera person, whatever, we're not going to do that. And I do think that over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start to see the media love fest of Donald Trump like diminish a little bit.
They're not like Brad and Angelina.
Like Brad and Angelina.
Well, he talks about how much he hates the media. So
Right,
at some point they're going to take it personally.
But he also talks about it, but he also loves the attention.
Oh,
So
he
I think they're going to
loves
start to take away the attention because they're also starting to cover the Pam Bondi situation. She talked about her $25,000. They're starting to talk about the Trump Foundation and how he used $250,000 to cover his. So they're whether or not you believe it or not, whatever. They're going to start to cover those stories a little bit more, which is going to start to turn up the heat on the Trump campaign.
One thing that's not getting enough coverage possibly is the fact that Hillary Clinton's schedule is suddenly very light for the next 6 days. In fact, she doesn't have any events. So that, for whatever the reason is, it doesn't help the narrative.
Well, she's got debate prep.
So does Trump, and he's
Yeah,
out there.
but he has actively said he is not doing debate prep.
All right.
So,
but at the same time, we spent most of the last show talking about how she, hasn't looked well. People are concerned about her, and
she needs to.
fine
But here's
now.
the thing:
I mean,
Hillary
there was
Clinton needs to knock the first debate 100% out of the park.
Sure.
She cannot have any sort of like daylight in between things happening. She's got to prep for somebody who she's like a situation that she's never debated before, a person that she's probably never debated before, like in her career. So how do you debate somebody? How do you debate somebody who doesn't know how to debate well? Especially as somebody like Hillary Clinton, who's like always in her head. She's got to. She's a policy wonk, so she's
Look, all that's true, but
policy.
at the same time, she could probably get out there in front of some cameras and give the same
sure maybe
speech that she's given dozens of times.
and maybe she'll give some
It's not a
radio.
lot of effort for her. So
She could give some sit-down interviews. I mean, if she gives some sit-down interviews, that's fine.
So,
It's just like,
yes or no to to Team Hillary at the end of the day? You're not worried about her at all. The fact that she's taken a week off before the debate.
I think that the Obama campaign probably did the same thing in 2012 because Mitt Romney was.
I'll look into that. I'll try and find out.
The time to get well and prepare.
I'm saying, yeah, you do need time. I mean, she just got over pneumonia. I think that you do need time to sit through. They came up with the criteria and with the topics they're going to be talking about the debate. So you do need a little bit of debate prep. So I think the American people are going to be okay with that. And like I said, they've rolled out the heavy hitters.
I realize it's not fair to bring this up when we have no time left, but LA Times weekly tracking poll showed Donald Trump up 16.5 points among black voters over the course of a single week between September 10th and September 16th. 16.5 points. Trump's support from black voters increased from just over 3%, which you're like, okay, that sounds about right, to 19.6%. Hillary's support declined during that same period, 90% to 71%. Now, I don't care that if it's a sample size or, I don't know, I want to look into it. Those are staggering numbers. And
that just don't
there's
happen.
A chance that your girl might be in trouble because you look at the Real Clear Politics average. Clinton's up 1.3%, and in four-way she's up 1.1%.
But you also look at the polls in states that she shouldn't be up in, and you have to compare those to the states that she's doing well.
But the average is still
and I think it's always going to be very close.
Sure.
But We know, and I had this conversation with a few of my Hispanic friends over the past few weeks, and they said at the end of the day, once they go into the ballot box, the choice is very clear. Whether or not the choice is very clear between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump with the Hispanic voter, and the African American voter is never going to vote for Donald Trump. So people could talk all day. Of course, there are black Republicans out there who will always not vote for their Democrat. Probably didn't vote for Barack Obama either, but. At the same time, a majority of the African American community is always
and the Washington Post also says that Hillary's losing Hispanics. Not that they're voting for Trump, but they're not excited about Hillary.
She's still by 50-something points with Hispanics in Arizona. She's her closest is 25 points.
Everything about Hillary is not trending in the direction it should be for Hillary's campaign to be happy.
Right, but the electoral math is still in the Democrats' favor, and that's what it's going to come down to.
Some people are getting close to revising it. No one's revised it yet, but Larry Sabato at the University for Politics, University of Virginia for Center for Politics, they're very close to revising it.
And they're not going to. And we're not. And these polls that we've seen over the past few weeks are not going to matter. The poll that will matter will be the one after Monday.
Right. Which I'm glad you mentioned it because what I wanted to mention is next Monday is the first presidential debate. We will be here Monday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, covering that debate, giving our reaction. So make sure that you tune in on Monday.
With a possible special guest.
Yeah, I believe a pro-Trump guest will be calling in. And Scott, you'll be on the road.
Yes.
But we'll have you call in for at least a few minutes, and we'll get your reaction to the debate. Anyway, so make sure you find us next Monday, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, for the Couch of Dissent and Stephen Helmkamp at Stephen Helmkamp, Drexel Heard at Drexel Heard, Scott Moore at SMan80, Chelsea Galicia at Chelsea Galicia. I'm Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ. Don't forget the show is at Trump Hillary 16. Make sure you follow us there, and we will see you all next Monday night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.